Hi, welcome to Dwayne's Guitar Lessons. I'm instructor Dwayne Jenkins. Thanks so much for being here today. In today's video lesson, we're going to be talking about the pentatonic scales. Had a student of mine ask me what the difference was between the major and the minor pentatonic. So that's what we're going to look at today. So be sure, before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the channel, click the bell for future notifications so you'll know when I'm loading up my next videos. And let's take a look at the difference between the major and the minor pentatonic scale.
Audio Jungle.
Alright, now, our pentatonic scale patterns, okay, there's 5 of them. Okay, I would highly recommend you learn all these. Now, the one that's the most common that everybody seems to know is number 1. And let's just play it right here at the 5th fret, okay? So that's going to be a 5-8, 5-7, 5-7, 5-7, 5-8, 5-8, okay? 8, 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7. Now that's like pattern number 1 because it's the most common that everybody knows. Everybody got to get started with that pattern, okay? So make sure that you know that very, very well, okay? That's your pattern 1 minor pentatonic scale. And we know it's minor because we're using the flat third. We're going from a 1 to a flat 3, okay? And how do you know that? You say, well, how do we know that? Well, this is an A note, so if we were playing the A major scale, it would be Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do, okay? So we could give each one of those a number, 1, 2, 3, that's our 3, so in the A major scale, this is a C sharp note, so we could say that our natural third is a C sharp. Now in the minor pentatonic, you can tell we're playing the C instead of the C sharp, so that tells us that that's going to be a flat third minor scale, okay? Now we also know that every major has a relative minor, okay, and every minor has a relative major. Now, if you're playing a minor, your relative major is going to be 3 frets up the fretboard, like this. So if we're playing A minor, our relative major, 1, 2, 3, is going to be C major. If we're playing C major, our relative minor is going to be 3 frets down, 1, 2, 3, which is A minor, okay? If we're playing A major, our relative minor is going to be 3 frets down, 1, 2, 3, it's going to be F sharp, okay? So just remember that, something to remember, that you have relative majors and minors. The reason why they're relative is because they're the same note. They're made up of the same notes, okay? And so every major has a relative minor, 3 frets down, and every minor is going to have a relative major 3 frets up, okay? Now if we're playing an A minor, our relative minor is going to be right here at the C. Relative major, sorry about that, relative major is going to be at the C, which is where our second position would normally start, right here. So that number 2 position is now going to be our major pentatonic, okay? So if we were playing in C major, our major pentatonic is going to be right here, second position, which would be, like, see, an A minor would be 8, 10, 7, 10, 7, 10, 7, 9, 8, 10, 8, 10. So if you wanted to play in C major, and you can tell if you really look at this chord, this is a C major chord, it's right there in that scale. See, here's the 1, these 2 notes are in that scale, that note's in that scale as well. So that second position, pattern position, would now be number 1 if you were playing C major. Okay, C major pentatonic is like position number 2. You turn that into position number 1. So now position number 1, if you're playing in the major pentatonics, would be right here. 2 would be normally number 3 in the minor, would now be number 2 in the major. And then number 4 would now be number 3 in the major. And of course number 5, which is normally number 5, would now be number 4 in the major. See, that would fit perfect over that. And then you have back, and then you have number 1, which would be number 5. And then you're back to number 1 again in the second position. So the scales are the same, it's just that you start on the second scale, okay? So I've always learned, you know, because rock is usually in minor key, you know, it gives it that sound, you always use this as pattern number 1. This is because it's a minor. And if you learn all 5 of those patterns, pattern 1, pattern 2, pattern 3, pattern 4, pattern 5, okay, that's gonna give you that roadmap that I talk about a lot in my videos and my books and stuff. And if you just go to pattern number 2 and use that as pattern number 1, now you're playing the major pentatonic scales, okay? And like I said, you can tell that, oops, I'm sorry, right here in C. Had that in B for a second there. You can tell it's in that, you can tell that chord is in that scale. If you really look at it, if you visualize. I would highly recommend working on visualization too. Really be able to see these patterns, these scale patterns on the fretboard. Because it makes it really, if you can visualize them like puzzle pieces, they connect with each other. So, when you think about it realistically, if you're playing in a C major, whatever that is, you know, whatever the rhythm is, you can play that second position pattern, that's your major, you know, it'll fit there perfect. Or you could actually play in the relative minor, which would be A minor, and it would fit too. So you actually, when you think about it, you really have 2 options. You can play in the major or the minor. You just have to know which ones are relative and where they're located. And just remember that your relative minor is always going to be 3 frets down, or if you're playing in a minor, your relative major is going to be 3 frets up. Okay, remember this is up, this is down, all right? Now if you know those locations, this is where a lot of people get in trouble, is they don't know where the locations are, okay? They don't understand the major, the minor. It's all pretty much the same. You know, you're still using those 5 patterns, it's just that if you're going to use a minor scale, start with that pattern 1, that most common one that everybody knows, everybody starts with. If you're going to do a major pentatonic, start with the second pattern. And make that pattern number 1. And then just go from there. Pattern 1, pattern 2, then 1 becomes, number 2 becomes 1, number 3 becomes number 2, number 3 becomes number, you know, you understand what I'm saying, right? And you'll always stay in key every single time. That's the problem a lot of people have, is that they don't stay in key. They're not sure where to play. They might even know a few of the patterns, but they don't know where to play them at. Okay, that's why it's very important to learn this fretboard. Okay, just remember that. And that little scale that I was playing earlier, if you notice that, and even that little slide he does. See? He's using those notes that are in that second position. This one right here. So that's how you know major, the difference between the major and the minor pentatonic. Your minor pentatonic is going to be your number one position, the most common one that everybody knows, and your major pentatonic is going to be that second position. Okay, so make sure you know those two. Make sure you know those very, very well. Those two are going to be your major and your minor, and then you got to know where to play them. All right, so there we have it, a quick little lesson on the difference between the major and the minor pentatonic scale. They're pretty much, you know, they're all those 5 scales. It's just which one you play. So once again, if you're going to play in a minor key over some kind of minor progression, you want to play that first pattern. Like for instance, if I was playing in G minor, I'd want to play that first pattern right here. That one, I would call it pattern number 1, okay? But if I was playing in G major, I would play the second position right here, the second scale pattern right here. You don't want to get those confused, because if you're playing the minor over major, it's not going to sound too good if it's not in the right position. Okay, same thing with the major. If you're playing it, positioning is key. Okay, so you got to know. Knowing the scale pattern is number 1. Knowing where to play it is number 2. Okay, so that's where a lot of guitar players get into trouble, is they're not too sure where to play it. Okay, and you can tell that it works because if you look at a G minor chord. Okay, this is a G minor bar chord. Okay, you can tell that chord, those notes are in that minor scale pattern. See? Now if you look at the G major chord, you can tell that it adds this note, which is not in the minor, but it is in that major, the second position here. That note right there. So that tells you, you play that second position right there, that's your major pentatonic scale. And then you play all the rest of them after that, and you stay in a major key. Okay, so you play that right there. Play the minor. If you're playing a minor, play pattern number 1. If you're playing in a major, play pattern number 2. And it'll fit every time. And you can tell it'll fit because that chord comes right out of that scale. So you know it's going to work because the notes are the same. All right? So but you got to practice. You got to study. You got to study these. If you're having any problems with learning this stuff, I would highly recommend check out my book, Lead Guitar Wizardry Volume 1. This book shows you all the 5 scales. It explains to you how they work. It's real simple. I made it real simple and easy to understand, not a lot of technical jargon and stuff. I have diagrams in here. I have it written in tab. I explain to you the notes, the positioning of them, stuff like that. I give you all kinds of really cool, show you how to do the hammer-ons, the slides, the bends, the pull-offs, that kind of stuff, because that's what gives the scales life. That's what brings them to life, is those kind of techniques. All right, not everybody uses them, but that does help a lot of times. Hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, bends, that's what gives them the technique. I also give you some key progressions to solo over in different keys that you can try as well. Okay, I give you some licks that you can give, some techniques and stuff. You can see that in the tabs. It's a really good book, really easy read. Check it out. It's on Amazon. I also have it in Kindle, and you can also purchase it through my eBay store at Dwayne's Guitar World. Okay, many different places. You can find this on my website as well. So check it out. If you have some questions about the pentatonic scales, you need to learn them, try to play lead guitar, this is a great place to start, okay? So thank you so much. Be sure to check out my website at DwaynesGuitarLessons.com. I got a lot of great free video lessons on there and blog posts and all kinds of great stuff on there, my books that I've written to help you with any kind of thing that you got going on with your guitar playing, all right? So thanks again for being here. Keep practicing. Study those scales, okay? Pick a key that you want to play in and figure out where you need to be in that key, and I guarantee you'll sound great every time. So take care, and I'll see you at our next lesson.